Hi everyone, my name's Alison Kelly and welcome to More Than Words podcast. Tonight we have Luke Cottrell as our guest. Luke, would you like to say hello and introduce everyone? Introduce yourself to everyone.
Hiya, I'm Luke. I'm a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-jitsu, and I just want to raise some awareness today for mental health around disability and actual Crohn's and colitis and ileostomies themselves.
Excellent.
Basically.
Right, I'm going to end it.
I was having a drink.
Hi everyone, my name's Alison Kelly and I am your presenter for this evening on More Than Words podcast. We have an amazing guest called Luke Cottrell. Luke has got an amazing story, inspirational story, and I'd love him to introduce himself to our listeners. Over to you, Luke.
Hi everyone, I'm Luke. I'm a Brazilian Jiu-jitsu blue belt and I have an ileostomy. So today I'd like to talk to you guys about mental health around the sport and around having an ileostomy and the things that come with it, including ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease.
Right, first of all, I need to ask you, the first question is, what is an ileostomy?
An ileostomy?
Yeah,
so
what is that?
So basically what an ileostomy is where they remove either your large or small colon and then they create an opening in your abdominal wall and post some of your intestine through that, normally about that sort of much, which is a small amount for those that are listening, not viewing. And they then collect that waste. It can be urine or it can be feces into a bag that's attached to your lower abdomen, normally below the belly button. It's a 10-hour operation in most cases, but it's about a 6-week recovery for some people. Some people it's more, depends if you have keyhole or if they do open surgery. So it's a pretty big op.
Wow. Thanks for telling me what that is, because
Right.
it just sounded like a long word and I thought, you know what,
Yeah,
our listeners might need to know what it actually is. So can you tell me a little bit about your background and how you got started into your sport and basically a little bit more about what the sport it is that you do?
Okay. So basically I do a sport called Brazilian Jiu-jitsu. I've been doing it for about 4 years, just around that. Prior to that, I'd done mixed martial arts, and prior to that, I'd done boxing. But ever since I had my stoma, I couldn't do the striking side of martial arts, so I had to do jiu-jitsu. Basically, what Brazilian jiu-jitsu is, it's a ground fighting martial art. It's very similar to judo, except for judo is you throw them and then you win, whereas jiu-jitsu, the fighting carries on once you're on the floor. If you've seen any sort of MMA or anything like that, it's the ground portion of the fight. It's basically, the idea is you attack limbs and choke your opponent with different types of submissions to get a tap to win, basically. You can win by decision, but ultimately you want to be snapping or napping your opponent. So it's quite intense, and especially having especially having a stoma, it's quite intense. So that my dog's trying to play with me.
Yeah, I was just about to say, that's incredible what you're actually doing with, you know, what you've gone through. So let's put some perspective onto actually what you're doing. So you're saying that you're doing this sport, but you've also got a stoma, a bag, but that hasn't stopped you. So what are some of the biggest challenges that you've faced in your sport because of what, you know, and how have you overcome that?
Yeah. So basically, put it this way, I'm probably, to our knowledge, I'm one of probably 4 people in the world that do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with a stoma. There's people that do other martial arts with a stoma, but just Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu specifically, I'm one of 4 people. So what that means is that I've had to adapt the certain moves and positions to bet for myself. I've had all sorts happen. Like I've had to have stitches and stuff on my stoma because I've caught it and it's bled. My bag's popped and covered my friends in poo before at jiu-jitsu. So it's kind of like lots of different things. And honestly, like I just mentally just tell myself that I'm not different to other people, and I just sort of just power through it in a way. Like I don't really think about it too much, because if I think about it, it affects me. So I just kind of put a brave face on it, and just get on with it. Luckily, all my training partners are really good and really understanding about the subject, so they all will support me if I'm having a bad day or if I do something that injures it. They're not gonna take the mick out of me. They will just support me through it, which is really nice, and I think that's important. You need to have that sort of family environment, especially around when you have stuff like this. So yeah, I recommend if anyone's listening and they want to do jiu-jitsu and they have a disability or something similar, they should speak to their team and speak to the guys around them and just go from there. That's how I moved through it. And that's, yeah.
So you said earlier about the operation, and the recovery and everything. So what was your mental health at the beginning? When this all happened, how did it affect your mental health, and how have you actually got that positive mindset to keep going?
Yeah, so mental health wise, when I was ill, so I got diagnosed with ulcerative colitis in 2015. I didn't have my operation till 2018, and that was 3-4 years of horrible pain and all the symptoms that come with ulcerative colitis I had, and it was horrendous, and I couldn't do anything. I was an 18, 19, 20-year-old, and I couldn't go out with my friends. I couldn't go out drinking. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't do any martial arts. I literally spent my days sat in front of my Xbox, because if I moved, I would either have an accident or be in too much pain. So mentally, at the start, I was like, I'll get through this. I've been through worse. It's only last a couple of months. I'll be fine. And then it was about the 2-year mark. My doctor said to me, you're going to end up with a bag, but we don't know when, but your colitis is excelling at such a rate that it's going to happen. I was like, okay. So then we started making plans to have it. Now, when we started making the plans, that was when my mental health took a big dive. And if I'm honest, there was times where I did think about suicide, and there's been times where I have since. Now, that's not saying that I've thought about it since I had my stoma. It's just sometimes those thoughts come back.
Yeah.
I always say that the mental health and suicide is like a hotel that you can never fully check out of, and sometimes you just have to pop in and see reception every now and again. You're not gonna go all the way to your room, but you just have to. Sometimes your brain just tricks you and you end up back in that headspace. So for me, it was more that I haven't been able to do anything I wanted to do. All the doors of my life have been shut. Like I wasn't able to join the army, and that's what I was doing when I was at school. Haven't been able to fight. I couldn't do anything that I wanted to. So that really affected my head. So how I sort of overcome it was jiu-jitsu. I mean, I found jiu-jitsu, my friends, my support, my girlfriend, everybody came together and sort of, we pushed me for what I am now. And I mean, it's only in the last year that I can actually say that my head's been 100% better, probably since November last year. So yeah, it's difficult, but I think you've got to have the good people around you, and you've got to find something that you love. If you don't have that, then you don't have anything.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's so important to have that, that support group and someone to be there for you and say to you, when you have your down days, they're there to lift you up. But the brilliant thing is, I love the hotel checking in, checking out the reception.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before. It's really good. So let's talk about why you're here. So I'm just going to tell the guest, you've got me talk about hotels now. I'm going to tell the listeners a little bit about what I do, and, a little bit about how we met. And then you can tell our listeners, what it is that you want from this podcast. Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, deal.
So to the listeners that don't know me, I'm Alison Kelly. I'm an empowerment coach and motivational speaker, and I work with Luke. So I also am a support worker and a counsellor. And I was talking to Luke one day and I was telling him a little bit about what I do. And Luke told me about his journey. And I just thought, do you know what? This guy needs to raise awareness. He wanted help to raise awareness. And that's why we're doing this this podcast tonight, is to raise awareness. So first of all, before we go on about how people can get in contact with you and what it is that you actually want some, help with and how to raise awareness, can you tell me, how do you balance work, personal life? Because you're a dad as well, aren't you?
Yeah, I've got a 4-year-old son. Yeah, he's my world. He's actually probably more my rock than in all of this than anybody else, to be honest. Yeah. How do I
you
balance
balance that? Because it's working.
I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know. If I ask my girlfriend that question, she'd tell me I don't.
Right.
But I do, and I have a weird way. Like, I have a calendar, and I plan my week at the start of a week of my exact times of when I'm working, when I've got my son, when I'm training, and when I'm walking the dog. And it's literally, I plan everything. Everything is planned. Every morning I wake up and I have that visual plan in my head of what we're going to do for the day. Now, the only problem is with that is if that does go Pete Tong, it does make my head wobble. So, I just sort of make sure I've got enough time. On my rest days, I spend it with my loved ones, and then on my other days, I'm training. Basically, I train every day, so it's difficult.
Very dedicated. Amazing. So let's talk about looking towards the future. Okay, so we're looking towards the future. Where do you see yourself heading, and how do you plan to get there?
So, in the next sort of 5-6 years, I want to be heading towards my black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. In the next few years, I'd like to think that I'll be heading towards my purple belt. And once I hit that milestone, I'll be the first purple belt in the UK with a stoma. I'm already one of the only people, but that's a pretty big milestone. And once I hit black belt, I'll be the only black belt with one. I can say that comfortably. And then what I'd like to do is sort of set up a place, whether that's a Facebook group, whether that's a forum where people with disabilities can come and get advice from a black belt with a disability, and we do go through lots of different moves. It will be completely free. And I just want to be able to have that platform. I have my YouTube now, and that YouTube is like the founding of that. But obviously, where I'm only a blue belt at the minute, I don't want to be coaching people because I'm nowhere near experienced enough to coach in jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu takes 10 years to get a black belt. And you don't want to be a blue belt coaching people because it just looks silly. So for me, I just want to be able to have a big platform where I just help lots of people, as many people as I can. I'll make money from my YouTube. I'll make money from TikTok, everything like that. So I'd rather help people and give back that way and make money in other ways. And then,
are you looking for sponsorships though, Luke, to help you along? Because I mean, it's very admirable what you're saying about, I won't charge people and everything else. And that's amazing. I do what I do. I've got a women's group, and I've got nearly 1,000 people in that women's group, and I started that 2.5 years ago, and I don't charge people to go on that group. That is all free advice and everything, but I've also got my empowerment coach, which obviously, we do have to charge. So, but there is help out there with sponsorships. I'm looking for sponsorships. So are you looking for sponsorships? Is that something you're thinking about?
Yeah, so at the minute I'm actively looking for sponsors. So if you do listen to this and you do want to sponsor me in any way, even if it's through anything, I'm not saying that I want money. It could just be through free equipment, whatever. Then you can reach me via my Instagram, which is the Goose Without Guts, and I'm on YouTube under the same thing, so you can contact me through either of those. And yeah, I mean, I've got 2 at the moment. I've got Lift You and Talk Your Jits podcast, and both are quite good friends of mine. So it's really nice to have that support, and I kind of want to keep it sort of like through friends and like island-based people rather than big companies that don't really know it exists.
Not for now. They don't know you exist at the moment, Luke. But
no,
after
they
this...
will one day. They will in a minute. Yeah, I mean, I'm competing on the 13th of May. So I'm at the minute I'm really focused on that. I'm in the middle of the weight cut to make the weight for that competition. So I'm very hungry and agitated.
Welcome to my world, and I'm not even doing any sport. Right, look, I think, do you know what? You've actually educated me tonight. I mean, I've known you for a little while now, you know, and I've worked alongside you, and I hear your story and I see your motivation, your determination. And that's why I wanted to do this podcast. You're my first guest.
Yeah, appreciate that. I know, it's amazing. I really appreciate it coming on. Thank you for having me.
No, that's I love having you. So can we just ask, can I just ask you again? I know you've already said, but where, if people wanted to get a hold of you, either it's just to find out information, maybe hear more about your story, or if they do want to sponsor you, where is it they can get a hold of you?
So I'm on Instagram at the goose with the gut without guts. So the goose without guts on Instagram, and the same handle is on my YouTube. You can reach me through either of those, and I'll be more than happy to talk to people, even if it is just for advice. I'm more than happy to do that.
Right, Luke, thanks ever so much for being our first guest.
I know.
Oh my word, that's amazing. I've really enjoyed talking to you. I hope the listeners have enjoyed it as well. And don't forget, listeners, every week we'll have an inspirational person on here with an inspirational story to tell on More Than Words podcast. Thanks for listening, Luke. Thanks ever so much. It's been a pleasure.
See you later. Thank you very
later.
much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.